in Leslie's absence, and I'm so excited to be joined by my guest this afternoon. Carol Creasey is an author who has got a really inspirational story, a really inspirational lady who wrote her first book in the 90s. When she realised life was worth living, but it was actually written about your son.
My son Philip, yes.
Oh, just hold on. I've got the wrong microphone. That's a good start. There we go.
Yes, about my son Philip. I felt that I was speaking for him because after everything he went through, I'm sure that if he could speak, he would have said, "My life is worth living," with a big exclamation mark after it.
Wonderful. And Carol, thank you ever so much for coming. I know you
for having me.
You don't actually live in the county, do you? So
No.
you're a visitor.
Not
But a regular one.
I was going to say, we've got a little holiday bungalow in Westhorpe. And the people of Suffolk are absolutely amazing. They treat us as if we actually live here all the time. We come down about once a month for a week, and I've made so many friends in Suffolk, and Keith has as well. You know, we just love it here.
Wonderful.
Absolutely love it.
So what attracted you to Suffolk then, if you're not from from these parts?
I've spent most of my life in Kent, but we've spent a lot of holidays in Suffolk. And I just love the countryside. I love the peacefulness. And as I say, the people, everywhere you go, it's just lovely. It's like escapism, isn't it? And I do a lot of my writing when I'm here because it's so peaceful and it's just nice.
And because your people may have seen you whilst they've been out and about at sort of craft fairs and things in the county, is that right?
That's right, yes. I do quite a lot of, I'm a regular person at the Sudbury Craft Fair at St Peter's Church. I'm actually going to, for the first time, I'm going to Boston Lodge on Sunday, this coming Sunday, and I'll be at Stonham Barns on Saturday for 4 hours. Where else have I been? I've been to Thetford, which I know is Norfolk, but it's not that far.
So basically all over the county.
All over the place, yes, yes.
And obviously the reason that you're going to these craft fairs is with, I take it, a selection of your books, because as I say, you're an author.
That's right, yes. I think to become successful, you actually have to go out and meet the people. It's no good sitting there and expecting Amazon to sell your books if nobody knows who you are. So that's what I do.
So let's go back then, because being an author, it's not always been your career, has it?
No, my main career was a manager of a china and glass shop. I was there for 17 years, I think it was, 16 years actually, yes. I was a manager for 11 of those years. The first 5 years I was a sales assistant because the family were all still at home, so I was working part-time because I wanted to fit it around the family, obviously, and holidays and things. And then when they all got older and left home, I was asked if I'd like to be manager. I don't think I would have applied, but, and I was really quite pleased to be asked, so I took the job and held it for 11 years.
And then, so I guess what's really interesting is how you get to being the manager of a shop.
Yes.
To an author.
Oh, right. Well, that's due to Philip.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Now, when Philip was born in 1971...
Philip's your son, we should say.
He was my third child, yes. And when he was born in 1971, he appeared perfectly normal at birth, but as he grew, various things manifested themselves with him. It's all detailed in the book, and I won't go through every single ailment that he had because we want this to be a cheerful afternoon programme. Sure. But anyway, as a family, we learnt to deal with each thing as it came along, but it was all trial and error. Now, I would have loved to have had a book at that time to read, that someone else had written to help me, because even at the age of 2, he was actually diagnosed with autism. And I went home and looked the word up in a dictionary because I didn't know what it meant.
We hear it a lot now. What year would that have been then?
1973.
So because autism is, as I say, we do hear and people speak a lot about autism now, but I'm guessing in the early 70s it wasn't as well known, was it?
I don't think so, no. As I say, it didn't mean very much to me at all, and I looked it up in the dictionary and it said messages to the brain are confused. Right. And that confused me as well.
Sure.
And I thought, well, I wonder what that means and what we can expect. But it wasn't so much the autism with Philip, it was all the health problems which He did go through an awful lot. He was in and out of hospital a lot. But the thing that always amazed me with him, every time he had an illness, the moment he felt a little bit better, he'd be as bright as a button. He'd be smiling. And, his whole attitude was, I'm all right again now. I'm going to get on with my life. And even though he had all these disabilities, he still, enjoyed his life. And it sort of made me feel that, we moan about things like the bus is a long time or there's a lot of traffic. None of that matters really, does it, in life?
Not really.
Not when you can have that sort of attitude and think, well, I've been through a lot, but I'm still enjoying my life. And that's what inspired me, because when he got to 21, I didn't
expect... Which was quite a thing, wasn't it? Because I didn't expect...
Well, they did say that he might not live beyond 5.
Right.
And so we obviously lived each day at a time, because you don't know what's going to happen. And as a family, I'm sure, when I look back now, I think my family were amazing, absolutely amazing. My other children, they've always loved Philip to bits. And my husband at the time, John, he was amazing too. He was my absolute rock at the time. But when he got to 21, I thought, well, this is wonderful. Philip's made 21. I don't know how many more years we've got him, but he was beginning to get a little bit fitter then, because modern medicine was helping him quite a bit. And so I wrote the book as a tribute. But I'm very pleased to say that in 2015, he's going to be 44 in June.
This is wonderful.
And he's one of the happiest people that you could ever meet. He can't speak a word, but the moment you see him, the arms come out, you get a hug, and his face is wreathed in smiles. And I think he just loves his life so much. And that's what's inspired me, because I think, well, if he can enjoy his life, then I'm going to take example from that and enjoy mine.
So how did you start... What actually, I know Philip was your inspiration, but
yes.
How do you actually sit down and think, right, this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to write a book now?
Right, well, you won't believe me, but you probably will. I bought one of these sort of rough books, and I wrote it all out by hand because I couldn't type.
Right.
And my idea was to send it to MenCap. I didn't actually think it was going to be a book. I thought maybe they might serialise it in a magazine or something like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I wrote to them and they said that they were very sorry, but their publishing house had closed down. But they said there was a small family company called United Writers in Cornwall, and they might be interested in it. So anyway, I wrote off to United Writers. And Mr. Shepherd, who is the head of it all, was really helpful. And he said, yes, if you submit it in typescript. And I thought, oh dear, and we weren't a very rich family at the time. So I went and bought a second-hand typewriter. It cost £50. And I I got up in the morning at 5 o'clock because I always had to start from 7 with the family. So I had 2 hours spare every morning. And I typed it out with 2 fingers.
Do you remember how long it took?
And he waited. I think it took me about a month, but he waited for it.
That's good, yeah.
Because I knew that they only had a certain amount of slots during the year, because they only take a certain number of books, and I didn't know how long he would be prepared to wait. But the funny thing was about it, after he told me that he'd accepted it, he said, oh, by the way, you have to do it in double spacing, but it's too late now. But he still accepted it, so I'm really grateful to him for that.
Wonderful. We'll find out more, chat more to Carol about how she felt when the book was published and the other books that she's had published after a bit of music. I've pulled up the sofa, and my guest this afternoon is an author, Carol M. Creasey, who's written several books, but the main one that started off your career, Carol, was the one we've been chatting about, My Life is Worth Living, written about your son, who was born with several sort of disabilities or special needs, wasn't he?
That's right, yes.
So, obviously this has been pretty successful, and we've heard how why you wrote it, inspired by your son Philip, but you kind of go around educating people, don't you, and chatting with people who may be in the same situation.
Yes, because as a mother, when that happens to you, you do actually feel, it doesn't matter how supportive your family are, you actually feel a bit on your own because it's your child. And I think it's nice for a mother to be able to read something like that and know that someone else was going through what she's going through. And I've had lots of mothers come up to me. In fact, a lovely lady, I don't think she'll mind if I mention her name, Deborah, sent me a wonderful message on Facebook this morning. She also has a son with special needs, and it was really a lovely tribute to my book, and I would like to thank Deborah, if that's all right.
And what I mean, is that why the book's so successful?
She said that it's inspirational, yes, and yes, to the people that have children with special needs, it is inspirational.
But Philip was born in the 70s, so
yes.
How do you think things have changed a lot?
Oh, tremendously, and for the good as well. I mean, there were still people who, you know, hid their children away if they had any sort of disability. They didn't take them out in public. I mean, anybody listening to that now would probably find that hard to believe.
Yeah.
But, oh yes, they've definitely changed. I mean, I think programmes like Children in Need and Comic Relief, which actually show people on the screen children and families with all sorts of problems that need help, does bring it home more. And we all know how generous the British public are when all these appeals happen. You know, they send money and everything. And I think it's wonderful, you know.
And this is, I mean, it's at the craft fairs. Do people come up to you at the craft fairs that you do with your books?
I've had some wonderful chats with people.
Yeah.
I've met such lovely people. I mean, I do feel when I'm here as if I live in Suffolk because everybody's absolutely lovely. They really are. You know, I can't say enough about Suffolk. It's a lovely place.
And how did you feel when the book actually got published?
Do you know, it was the most wonderful feeling in the world. I think there's something special about your first book. And at the time, I was working in the china and glass shop where I spoke to you about that I was manager. And every single person in the company bought, it was only a small company, admittedly, I think there were about 50 of us, but every single person, including all the directors, they all bought a copy of the book. And, you know, it was just lovely, and obviously friends and everything. Yes, I have had huge support over the years, I really have, from people.
And how do people that know you, how do they react when they read the book, or people that knew you then? Because obviously they maybe didn't realise what you were going through, and then
probably
it's
not
all written down, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. It all came straight from my heart, you know. I felt a terrible need to share it with the world, you know, that I wanted, but I wanted mainly for people to know just how brave Philip was. It wasn't about myself. It was about him and how brave he was. Because, you know, I mean, even to this day, he still has little things that, I mean, he's not got very good sight now. One of his eyes is not too good, but it doesn't make any difference to him. He's still got this wonderful motivation, if you like, you know.
Do you think he's aware of how much he's inspired you? And I mean, is he aware of the book, for example? I've
shown him the book and he smiled and, you know, tapped it. But I don't know. But I'd like to think that maybe he certainly knows I'm proud of him. The whole family are proud of him.
And it didn't stop there, did it? Because there were more. There's been books since then. How did you go from that to writing another book? I think which was the next one?
Right, well, I did write one called Fatal Obsession, which was a paperback, but unfortunately we can't really talk about that one. It's out of print now.
Right, oh, that's a shame.
But then after that was Not Just an Affair. Well, I get my inspiration for my books from people around me, situations, things that I go out often with a pad and pencil and jot things down. And in modern life, there seems to be a lot of, I mean, it's totally different to when I was young, but the, you know, people maybe marry 1, 2, 3 times sometimes. And I decided that instead of boy meets girl, a normal type of love story, I would write a love story about a couple who both married to somebody else but very unhappy in their marriages, and they come together. And then, of course, that causes a huge fallout. And the readers of, you know, not the reader, but the actual people, the couple, are going to think that everything that's happened is because of their affair and feel very, very guilty about it. But there is an underlying plot underneath and a reason why everything has happened the way it has. But that doesn't come out until the end of the book.
So, what, I mean, because it must have been difficult to get confidence? It must have been a very different thing writing the first book.
Yes.
Which was, based entirely around your life with your son.
That's right. Well, I'm very ambitious, and I'd like to be known as a person who can write more than one type of book. Because, I love Catherine Cookson's books, but they're quite similar. They're all based in Newcastle and that area, and and I thought, well, she's a wonderful writer. I could never be as good as her, but I'm just saying that I decided I'd write different, and that's why they are so different, my books.
And because the one I've been reading, is called Evil Woman.
Yes, well, I decided that I'd like to try something dark, and the reason for that is because I watch the soaps. And I always find the evil characters, like Janine in EastEnders, and they're always somehow more interesting than the ones who are behaving themselves. So I put together Sadie, and I thought, I'm going to have to make her as bad as she possibly can be.
And she is bad.
She
now
is.
I'm halfway through that book, so don't give anything away.
I won't, I promise.
But yeah, it's got me fairly gripped. But
Good.
I noticed when I was reading it, there's one of the main characters in the book is a chap who's lost his wife.
Correct. Yes.
Now, reading about you,
yes,
I've managed to sort of put two and two together. Amy is a character in the book who died in a car accident, and you went through a similar thing. I did, yes. Incident with your daughter.
Yes. Now, I must make it clear that Sadie is completely made up.
Yes.
She doesn't exist. But situations happen in life that give me ideas for my books. And because I wanted this person to be really evil, I thought, what could be more evil than going for somebody who's very vulnerable? And it also helped me with my grief over my daughter to be able to put something in a book about it.
Yes.
But there isn't really a connection. That's just how it is.
So do you feel like kind of everything that you go through in your own life is inspiration in some way, shape or form towards your writing?
Definitely, because I'm a writer that writes straight from my heart and honest. I can't write in any other way. And I think, and in life, people that know me, I'm quite a shy person, so I think maybe that's why I'm a writer, because there's things I'd like to say, and it's a lot easier to say them in a book.
And you've got I haven't finished Evil Woman. I'm very much looking forward to. But is there another one? Is there a Evil
I'm
Woman
afraid
2?
Well, it's Evil Woman Takes Revenge.
Okay.
Yeah. And all I will say is that it's the first time I've tried leaving an open ending, because my other two books had happy endings. And I thought, let's try and be modern, like all the dramas you see on television where they walk off into the mist and you sort of have to make up your own ending for it because they don't actually tell you. And I thought, well, I'll do the same. But of course, when people started writing reviews on Amazon and talking to me about it, they all said, well, what did Sadie do after that? And so I thought, I'm going to have to think up something else now for Sadie to do. So I did it.
And when is that
It's coming out on the 26th of June.
That's something to look forward to. Coming up to 20 to 4, I'm Sarah Lilly, sitting in for Leslie Dolphin, who's off for one day only. Don't panic. I'm here until 5 o'clock. And with me, my sofa guest today, a lovely lady, inspirational lady, I think, Carol M. Creasey, who's an author. And we've been chatting about all your wonderful books. Started off with My Life is Worth Living, which was written about your son, Philip. And since then, well, they just keep coming and coming, don't they, Carol? So you're waiting for another one to come out. But what I thought was really interesting in writing it wasn't like a childhood dream for you, was it?
No. What happened was when I was at school, when I took my GCSEs, I was rather keen on a boy with lovely dark hair, all pushed back with Brill cream, and he really looked the part.
Sounds lovely.
He was. I don't know what he looks like now, though. Anyway, so I wasn't really concentrating, and I only left school with 2 O-levels, they were called in those days, which wasn't really very good because it was a grammar school and I could have done better. Well, then, of course, I had my children and everything else. And then at the age of 40, I was helping my eldest daughter with a GCSE project in English language. And I thought, oh, I could have passed this. You know, I didn't pass this at school. And she said, go on, Mum. So I went back to evening classes. That's the only time I had. I think it was a Wednesday evening, 2 hours once a week. And the first one I passed was English language, then English literature. Then I thought I'd try sociology.
Well, why not?
And then psychology.
Wow.
And then... what's the other one called? Social and economic history, which actually is very interesting when you get into it.
So, 4 children at home,
Yes.
and you find, how on earth did you find the time to do those evening classes?
I think you
did.
just do. I think if you make up your mind that you're going to do something, you set the time aside and you just do it.
And do you think you would have written the books if you hadn't done that, if you hadn't have got those qualifications?
Maybe not, because I mean, it was actually my literature teacher that said to me that I had a flair for writing. And she said, did you know? And I said, no, you know. But, you know, a few years later, when I had all this inside me that I wanted to tell everybody about Philip, I thought, oh, the teacher said I had a flair. I wonder if I can put it into something, you know. And so I thought, let's have a go.
And how do you write?
How do I write?
Yeah, is there kind of, you know, a certain way you like to do things? Do you like to take yourself off somewhere, or, you know, what works?
I do like sitting in the conservatory, and at Suffolk here we look over to a field. It's lovely and peaceful, and you don't see many people. And so I've got a little, what I call a notebook, and I do it on there, and then I put it on the disc and I can use it in the main computer as well at home if I want to.
You're not still trying to handwrite things, are you? Like
Oh,
you did
no,
before?
no. No, my handwriting now is appalling, actually. Absolutely appalling. Because I type everything.
And how long does it take you on average to come up with these books?
Well, I come up with an idea, and then I think about it for quite a long time before I actually... Because I know I was taught at school, and it doesn't work for me, that when you write a story, you're supposed to plan out each chapter. Chapter 1 is introduction. Chapter 2, they go down the road, etc., etc. But I actually do my books. I develop them through my characters.
Right.
I decide what characters I'm going to have and what type of character they are, whether they're good or bad, you know. And then I act as that character. It's almost like being in a play, and I act as that character, and then the story unfolds through that character. That's how it works for me anyway.
That's fascinating. And so what then is it, how does it work then getting that actual book published? So do you have to come up with a first draft and submit it, and then come up with further ones, or?
Right. So I send the draft off to the publisher. He reads it through and makes corrections, obviously. I would be lost without him, absolutely lost. And then he sends it back, and then I have to look at it again, and we hope between us that we haven't missed anything. We try really hard.
And so what would you say to people then, Carol, if they... Because some people might think, you know, that's what I'd like to do. You know, if Carol can do it, why can't I?
Absolutely, and I agree with that. Now, the only thing I would say, a word of caution, you're going to be in for a lot of disappointments. Now, I was very, very lucky that my book was published, and I have remained with United Writers for 22 years now. But I do know that each book I write, even though they've still got me there, if it wasn't how it should be, they would tell me. They wouldn't just publish it. You know, it's got to be a certain standard. But I've also written lots of short stories and sent them to women's magazines, and so far never had any success.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I did stop doing it a while ago and decided to carry on with the novels. In fact, I do write short stories on the internet. I belong to a writing site called Wikinut.
Right.
And I get them published on there. And I'm amongst a group of other writers, and it's great, really, because we all help each other. You know, we read each other's work and comment and everything, and that's great. But it isn't easy. It really isn't easy to get published, but you mustn't get downhearted. You just got to keep trying.
And what does the future hold, Carol?
The future...
Obviously, the new book coming out in June.
The new book, I'm really excited about it, and all the lovely people that I meet. You know, I mean, it's amazing. Everywhere I go, people are wonderful. They're so supportive. But recently, my eldest granddaughter, Becky, in America, she gave birth to her first baby daughter. Her name's Mary Rose.
Oh.
And I met her on Skype, but I actually...
thank goodness for Skype.
Oh, isn't it wonderful?
When
I
you've
could
got family
almost
abroad.
touch her, yes. I actually want to go and meet her as soon as I'm able to. Hopefully later this year.
And if people want to come and see you at craft fair while you're in the county, when is there one coming up?
Right, well, I'm here until Sunday, and I have Stonham Barnes. I will be there between 10 and 2 on Saturday. Hopefully the rain will stay away,
Fingers crossed.
I got rained off last month. And then on Sunday, I'm at Boston Lodge, which I believe is in Lowestoft. It will be my first time there, but there's a very helpful lady called Jenny that's been corresponding with me, that I believe she runs it. So, you know, I think everybody should come along to Lowestoft and see the fair.
Wonderful. It has been an absolute pleasure meeting you, Carol. And to sort of finish the interview, I thought we'd play somebody that you've noted down to me here as somebody else that inspires you.
Absolutely, yes.
Who is it?
It's Mr. Gareth Gates.
And what is it you've found so fascinating about him?
Gareth Gates is one of the most bravest people I've ever met, because he has a stammer, but he also has a beautiful voice. And when he went on Pop Idol, he knew that he was going to have a problem when he was interviewed, but it didn't stop him singing. And he's always been an inspiration. I've actually met him, and he's a very, very nice young man.
I've got a feeling, Carol, that you may have inspired a few people yourself, not only during the course of this interview, but over the years. Thank you so much for joining me.
You're very welcome, and thank you for having me.